Jahdae Barron's contract with the Denver Broncos is now signed, leaving only RJ Harvey as the lone remaining unsigned draft pick for this 2025 class. So what will happen with the Broncos rookie runner? Will he be there before the start of training camp on July 22nd? Rookies are scheduled to report today. So how many of those rookie sessions will he miss? And is a contract extension coming for one of the Broncos' most key contributors heading into 2025? All things to come on today's rundown, but we will begin in the NFL with the Denver Broncos and their pair of previously unsigned rookie players, one of which has now ended his mystery. That is first-round pick Jahdae Barron out of the University of Texas, who signs his 4-year, $18 million deal with a signing bonus of just under $10 million. And it appears that some of the holdup between Barron's camp and the Broncos camp was negotiating the finer points and the nuance of the contract, because the contract is fully guaranteed, as is the case for first-round draft picks. It usually comes down to language. We see the ongoing saga with the lone remaining unsigned first-round draft pick, Shamar Stewart, for the Cincinnati Bengals, who has been at odds with his team about language that the Bengals would like to include that would allow them to recoup and or void guaranteed money due to injury and other circumstances and situations. Situations, by the way, that have not ever been included in an NFL contract for a first-round draft pick before, and it appears Shamar Stewart is unwilling to be the guinea pig in that scenario. It was all quiet on the Western Front between Jahdae Barron and the Denver Broncos as they went through this negotiation. We got no word that either party was unhappy with the situation, that there was tension or friction or disagreements that didn't seem to be able to find any kind of common ground. It just kind of comes up to the wire. We got the announcement last night from Mike Kliss, our 9 News Broncos insider, that Barron has signed his deal and is presumably present and ready to go when Rookies reported at Broncos Park, powered by Common Spirit, today. So what does this mean for RJ Harvey? He was, unlike Barron, who was one of just 2 remaining unsigned first-round draft picks, RJ Harvey is in the majority of the 30 unsigned second-round draft picks up to this point. This obviously coming as a result of the unprecedented and historic move made by the Houston Texans, who gave their second-round pick, the 34th overall pick, a fully guaranteed $11.7 million contract. That, of course, is Jaden Higgins, the wide receiver. Well, that put the Cleveland Browns, who picked 33rd, in a little bit of a pickle. Their linebacker, Carson Schlesinger, was also given a fully guaranteed contract as a second-round pick, making it 2 unprecedented, never-before-seen moves for a second-round draft pick happening within very quick succession of each other. Well, that seemed to put a freeze on things for the other 30 teams, and I'm assuming from the teams and the owner's perspective going, whoa, 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 whoa. Hang on a minute. We don't necessarily want to make this random occurrence that the Texans very quickly came to a decision on, by the way, a regular thing. And so now you have this standoff, a stalemate between the NFL teams and their representatives and ownership and the agents of these players, who now can point to the first 2 picks in the second round of the 2025 draft class and say, hey, these guys got fully guaranteed contracts. We want them too. And even if they aren't necessarily demanding or lobbying for fully guaranteed contracts, if you're pick 48, 49, or in the case of RJ Harvey, 60 in the second round of the NFL draft, you may be looking for a significantly higher portion of that contract to be guaranteed than is traditionally been doled out to second-round picks in the NFL. RJ Harvey, up to this point, is now, even though he's among plenty of welcome company in second-round draft picks of the 2025 class that remained unsigned, he is now the lone remaining unsigned draft pick for the Denver Broncos. And this presents kind of a sticky situation, because RJ Harvey, in some accounts to some people, may be already penciled in as the starting running back for the Denver Broncos in 2025 at a minimum, factoring in the arrival of J.K. Dobbins, the departure of Javonte Williams, and the uncertain nature of the third running back slot between Audric Estime, Jaleel McLaughlin, Tyler Bidet, and Blake Watson. At a minimum, RJ Harvey figures to be a significant contributor in Sean Payton's offense in 2025, somebody that he and George Paton clearly sought after, picking him in the first 2 rounds of the NFL draft. And you can get into the nuance and split hairs of, well, how much are they really doing in these rookie practices that are being reported now that take place 6 or 7 days before training camp actually gets going with the full team on the 22nd. But I think that's the wrong way to look at it. One, you brought this guy in to be a major contributor. And as a rookie in the NFL, the more he can be in the building, the earlier he can get his hands on the playbook, get in the meeting room, get on the iPad, start learning the install, and going through things at the NFL level, the better. There is no downside to doing that early. And you can say, hey, maybe the downside to him not being able to do it right away isn't as big as some people think it is, but it's still a downside. Okay? This team has a lot of things going for it. They're coming off of a surprising season where they finished 10-7 with a wild card berth, ending simultaneously their streak of losing seasons that had gone on since the end of the 2016 season, and their first postseason appearance since they hoisted the Lombardi Trophy in 2015. So everything is moving at a much more fast than expected pace in the right direction for the 2025 Denver Broncos. And the less we can have to potentially contribute towards slowing that down, the better. The Broncos, in my opinion, need to do what it takes, figure it out, get RJ Harvey in the building, because at the end of the day, this stalemate with 30 people trying to hold out, which, by the way, we talk about collusion from NFL teams and ownership, how they, according to the NFLPA, were colluding against the players to prevent quarterbacks like, as we found out, Russell Wilson from being the latest trend in giving quarterbacks fully guaranteed mega contracts. That's not okay, and that's maybe taboo. But when it appears like a group of 32nd round picks and their agents and representatives are colluding against the NFL to hold out in solidarity in order to try to get second round picks guaranteed for all, doesn't seem to be getting necessarily the same bad taste in people's mouths. I find that interesting. I digress. That is not the purpose of this conversation today. The purpose of the conversation was to discuss the fact that, one, Jahdae Barron signing his contract for the Denver Broncos, a 4-year, $18 million contract with just under a $10 million signing bonus, is a good thing for the Denver Broncos, considering he is projected to be the starting slot corner for this defense in 2025, a defense and a secondary that was tested heavily by some of the elite quarterback competition in the AFC, from Lamar Jackson to Joe Burrow, and ultimately in the postseason, Josh Allen. And that forgets being in a division with Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert, 2 quarterbacks that are in that upper echelon conversation, obviously, as well. So a big addition at a key position in that cornerback room is now under contract and ready to start contributing to an area and a defense where he is projected to start. RJ Harvey, in theory, despite being a second-round pick, is in the exact same situation. And you could argue, which I would, that RJ Harvey's potential contribution is going to be felt more significantly, at least in the early onset, than Jahdae Barron, who's joining a secondary that features a promising young player in Riley Moss, the reigning defensive player of the year in Patrick Surtain, as well as a talented safety tandem, a revamped linebacker room that has plenty of help around him playing at a slot corner position that he can exploit. RJ Harvey's joining a room that was so bad in 2024 that the leader in that clubhouse is now a Dallas Cowboy who was able to sign a 1-year deal to get himself out of town in free agency. And J.K. Dobbins comes in as a veteran presence, and we don't even know who the third running back currently is slotted to be. But whoever the third running back is somebody who is in contention for the starting running back job in 2024. So RJ Harvey, with the low floor of the Broncos running back room, but also the importance of bringing balance to Sean Payton's offense and not having to rely solely on the arms and legs of Bo Nix to carry any kind of positive production, is going to be critical if the Broncos are going to have a chance to repeat as double-digit winners in the NFL in 2025 and be postseason contenders beyond a brief blip on the wild card radar in 2025. So for the Denver Broncos, who are now faced with a situation where they have one remaining pick left unsigned, I say this. Getting Jahdae Barron's contract and his deal done, the 4 years, $18 million, great. Working out the nuance of that contract between the signing bonus and the timing of the payout and all of that, fantastic. Get it done with RJ Harvey. RJ Harvey's impact on this offense, in theory and on paper, could be way bigger than Jahdae Barron, given the low floor of the Broncos rushing attack compared to the vaunted nature of the Broncos secondary and the defense around Jahdae Barron, where he figures to be the starting slot corner. This run game needs to be fixed. It is imperative. It is critical that balance is brought to this offense for Sean Payton, and that Bo Nix, who's entering a sophomore season, coming off a lot of promise in his rookie campaign, but he needs help. And a strong and or just competent run game is the first step in doing that. And regardless of whether RJ Harvey is the Batman or the Robin, the 1A or the 1B in this offense in week 1 against the Titans, he's got to be there. And he can't be there until pen is appropriately put to paper. Speaking of pens and papers, is a contract extension actually in the cards for Courtland Sutton? This is the payoff, the continuation of the dramatic saga we saw last offseason, where almost exactly a year ago, it was Courtland Sutton who was holding out of voluntary OTAs before showing up and essentially kind of holding in to mandatory team activities in search of a new contract himself. Ultimately, the team restructures his contract. He signs a deal worth up to $15.2 million that featured $1.5 million in incentives, all of which he hit based on the performance-based metrics. And the speculation and reporting around that is that Courtland Sutton was told by the team, presumably George Paton, Sean Payton, etc., that if he does what the team is asking him to do ahead of the 2024 season, and he hits his incentives, that the team will play ball and that he will be revisited from a contract perspective next offseason. Well, next offseason is right now, and we are here almost exactly a year later, and we still don't 100% know what the team's plan is to address Courtland Sutton's future with the Denver Broncos, and what Courtland Sutton plans to do if and when his wishes are not met by the team. We have not heard anything yet. Everything has been relatively mum's the word on that front as well. Significantly contrasting last offseason, where Courtland Sutton was posting gifs of Will Smith in the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, looking around an empty living room with no furniture, wondering where everything's going on, and making his vocal complaints very easy to find. He did not speak at his own event at Coors Field earlier this summer. He was not given an opportunity to speak to the media, likely intentionally, with all of this going on. So we have heard nothing from either side in a serviceable nature about actions heading in that direction between the team and the wide receiver. And it kind of has me wondering, are the Broncos actually going to offer Courtland Sutton an extension? I would assume if they don't before the start of training camp, that Courtland Sutton would hold in, not hold out, because that comes with $100,000 a day type of fines. And as Courtland's agent said last offseason, Sutton's not in the interest of in the interest of giving away money. So I would assume if a contract agreement on an extension that is satisfactory to Sutton and his camp is not met, that Courtland Sutton would not be participating even if he was present in team activities. And from the team's perspective, how much leverage do they really have? How much leverage does each side have? On one hand, Courtland Sutton may not be a number one wide receiver to a lot of NFL teams or by a lot of NFL minds. He didn't even receive votes in ESPN's most recent ranking of the top 10 potential wide receivers in the NFL. Usually they do 10 receivers, a couple honorable mentions, and then they list out a bunch of guys who maybe received a vote or 2 or 3 but didn't quite make that cut. Courtland Sutton's name was not mentioned there at all. So from a team perspective, when you're talking about leverage, he may not be the number 1 wide receiver to a lot of teams. So why would the team go out and pay him even close to wide receiver 1, bottom end wide receiver 1 type of money for a player who's on the wrong side of 30 and is certainly more likely to maybe dip in production than unlock a new gear that we haven't already seen from Sutton going forward? On the flip side, Courtland Sutton may not be a wide receiver 1 to a lot of teams and a lot of people's eyes, but he's the wide receiver 1 for the Denver Broncos. And the fact that we don't even have a clear-cut understanding of who the wide receiver 2 is on this team only adds to the fact that even if your number 1 feels more like a 1.5 or a 1.9, he's your number 1, and you don't even have a for sure number 2. You have projection and you have hope that Marvin Mims can continue from a production standpoint and a usage standpoint, carve out a bigger role in the offense. But does Marvin Mims profile from a body type or a stylistic standpoint like a traditional wide receiver 2 at the NFL level? I have my questions about that. Devon Vele, the 7th round pick, who for 7th round picks, as far as that goes, contributed to a significant degree in a rookie campaign, the likes of which we haven't seen in some time. Is Devon Vele, the 7th round pick, somebody you're really ready to turn the keys over and say, hey, yeah, we are going to count on this guy on an every snap kind of basis as our number 2 receiver opposite Courtland Sutton? Kind of hard to say that too. Troy Franklin shows flashes at times of being a take the top off the defense, turn and burn type of receiver, but the connectivity and the timing with Bo Nix just isn't there right now, despite the fact that they were college teammates at Oregon. So Troy Franklin, outside of a big touchdown catch to open the scoring in the wild card round against Buffalo and a couple of other moments here and there sprinkled out over the course of a 17-game regular season, has given you nothing to say that he can be your number 2 wide receiver. Pat Bryant just got here, the 3rd rounder out of Illinois. And does he present body type stylistically similar to a Tim Patrick and a Courtland Sutton and maybe a Devon Vele? Yeah. So does he fit that archetype better than a Marvin Mims and a Troy Franklin? Sure. But we don't know if Pat Bryant knows his left from right at the NFL level yet, and he's never faced that kind of competition to be able to answer those questions. So this is kind of a weird spot for both sides to be in. The Broncos, in essence, may be being held hostage by a kidnapper that may only be able to hold hostage somebody like the Denver Broncos, who don't have anything better in the stable behind him. I still don't 100% know if in my heart I believe a contract extension, the likes of which Sutton will want to accept, is coming from George Paton and Sean Payton. Do they have the money to do it? Do they have the space to do it? Yes. Is it the smartest move for them to make from a football perspective on paper? You could argue no. But you don't also want to do anything to disrupt the potential development of someone you think in Bo Nix is your next franchise quarterback for the 10 and maybe even 15 years to come. So both sides have an odd outside the box type of leverage that they can use against the other. And I just feel like this might be a situation where the NFL calls Courtland Sutton's bluff, where they're not going to be held hostage by a wide receiver 1 here in Denver that many don't think would be a wide receiver 1 other places. He has 1 year left on his contract. It doesn't behoove him to not play because he would be looking for an opportunity to play and perform and show out for another team that would be willing to give him that money. So sitting out, like we saw Melvin Gordon do when he was a Charger to try to get more money on the end of his rookie contract, doesn't work. That's how he ends up as a Denver Bronco. Le'Veon Bell infamously held out for more money with the Steelers. He ends up a New York Jet. It's a disaster. And then he bounces around to the Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs and yada, yada, yada. And his career, which was off to such a strong start, never looked the same again. While Courtland Sutton may have the leverage of being, if not a true wide receiver 1 at the NFL, being the Broncos wide receiver 1, I am just starting to have a feeling that from the Broncos' perspective, with Sean and George Paton manning that front office, that they are not going to bend to any kind of demands. And the shenanigans that were pulled last offseason, which have not been repeated as of yet, even if they come, are not going to persuade and force a team like the Broncos with where they're currently at to overextend and overpay for a player that they're not sure fits into their picture beyond this upcoming season. And given the fact that I don't think Courtland Sutton's best interest would be to hold out and sit out or try to force his way out to another team right now, it could just be a wrong place, wrong time for a guy who thought he might be in the right place at the right time. We will see how it all shakes out. The rookies reported today. We will find out, hopefully in the near future, what RJ Harvey's contract situation settles out to be, and have a full house ready to go at Broncos Park, powered by Common Spirit, when things really get rolling next week. Thank you all so much for joining me. We'll catch you at the same time in the same place tomorrow.
I do what I love what I do. Second nature to put in the work.